You ever notice how those first few moments after you wake up, kind of set the tone for your whole day?
Absolutely. I mean, if you start your morning feeling confident and strong and you believe in yourself, you're going to approach the rest of the day with a whole different energy.
Totally. It's like that old saying, win the morning, win the day, or something like that. And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about today.
Right on.
We're exploring a fascinating document called Start Your Day Right, which really digs into how you can consciously shape those first thoughts of yours to create a ripple effect of positivity throughout your day.
It's all about harnessing the power of those initial moments, for sure.
Exactly. So, if you're ready to unlock that power, we're going to dive into the world of morning affirmations and explore their impact on boosting your confidence and setting yourself up for success, however you personally define that word. So we'll cover a lot of ground, like what these affirmations actually are, why your brain seems to really love them in the morning, what the science says about their effectiveness, practical tips to get you started, loads of examples geared toward building confidence and achieving success, and even how to smoothly integrate this whole practice into your existing routine.
Sounds like a plan.
Have you ever considered, by the way, how those very first thoughts that pop into your head each day might be subtly or maybe not so subtly shaping your reality?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it?
It is. Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack. Let's see if we can uncover how this seemingly simple practice can actually make a real, tangible difference in your life.
Let's do it.
So, first things first, what are affirmations anyway?
Well, the document describes them as short, positive statements. Kind of like mental tools that you can use to challenge those pesky negative thoughts and reinforce more positive beliefs, the ones that help you grow and feel good.
So instead of letting those "I can't do this" thoughts spiral, you're consciously replacing them with something more empowering.
That's the idea, yeah. The document actually gives some great examples like, I'm confident in my abilities, I am capable of achieving my goals, I deserve success and happiness.
Right, those are super direct and positive. But the document also seems to stress that it's not just about repeating the words, right? There's got to be some intention behind them, some real belief for them to really stick.
Absolutely. It's not just about going through the motions. You have to really feel it for it to truly work its magic.
Makes sense. Now, why is the morning such a prime time for this kind of mental practice?
Well, think about it. When you first wake up, your mind's in this kind of transitional state. You're emerging from sleep. And the document says that your mind's often more open and receptive during that time.
So like that groggy, just woke up feeling is actually an advantage here.
In a way, yes. It's like your subconscious mind, that deeper part of you, is a little less guarded, more accessible to these positive suggestions.
Interesting. Okay, so assuming you can manage to utter a few coherent sentences before your first cup of coffee, what are the actual benefits of using affirmations in the morning? What can people expect?
Well, the document lays out some pretty compelling advantages. First off, it sets a positive tone for the entire day. It's like choosing a really upbeat playlist to get you going. Instead of waking up to that same old mental chatter, you're starting with an injection of positivity.
I like that analogy. It's about setting the right vibe from the get-go. What else?
It also helps you laser focus your mental energy on your goals. Instead of getting sidetracked by emails or whatever's on your to-do list, you're starting by reminding yourself what truly matters, what you're working towards.
That's huge in today's world with all the distractions and things pulling us in different directions.
Totally. It helps you stay on track with your own priorities.
Yeah.
And then you've got the whole resilience thing.
Resilience, huh?
Yeah. The document describes morning affirmations as a way to build resilience against stress and negativity. By consistently reinforcing these positive beliefs, you're essentially building up your mental armor. You're better equipped to handle whatever challenges the day might throw your way.
I love that. Like a mental shield against all the crap that life can sometimes throw at you.
Exactly. And of course, it helps strengthen your confidence. You're starting your day by reminding yourself of your capabilities, your worthiness, your ability to handle things.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about feeling capable and equipped to tackle whatever comes your way.
That's the goal.
Now, I know some people might be thinking, okay, this all sounds a bit too good to be true. Is there actually any scientific evidence to back this up? What does the research say about affirmations?
That's a great question, and the document actually delves into the science behind it all. It points to research in neuroscience, positive psychology, and even cognitive behavioral therapy.
Wow, so it's not just some feel-good self-help concept. There's actual research to support it.
Yes, and what's really cool is that studies have shown that affirmations can actually activate the reward centers in your brain.
Really? So it's like giving your brain a little hit of dopamine when you affirm something positive about yourself.
You got it, and that creates this positive feedback loop, reinforcing those beliefs even more. The document also mentions that affirmations can help reduce stress by lowering cortisol levels, that stress hormone that can wreak havoc on your body and mind.
So it's not just good for your mental state, it could actually be benefiting your physical health too.
Precisely. And then there's the whole thing about neural pathways. The document talks about how affirmations strengthen the connections in your brain that are linked to self-worth and motivation.
So it's like building stronger mental highways that lead to a more positive self-image and that drive to achieve your goals.
Perfect analogy. You're literally rewiring your brain for greater confidence and success.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It even mentions MRI studies. What did those show?
Yeah, the document points out that MRI scans have actually shown that when people engage in self-affirmation, it activates a part of the brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex.
Okay, that's a mouthful. What does that part of the brain do?
It's basically involved in how you value things in a positive way and how you process information about yourself. So when you affirm something positive, you're actually seeing increased activity in the part of your brain that deals with self-esteem and positive self-regard.
So it's not just a mental exercise, it has a real measurable effect on your brain.
That's right.
Okay, so let's say you're sold on the why. Now, how do you actually do it? What are some effective ways to use morning affirmations? Where do you even begin?
The document outlines some pretty straightforward steps. First and foremost, you got to choose affirmations that resonate with you emotionally. These shouldn't be just random generic statements. They should feel meaningful and relevant to your personal goals and aspirations.
Right, so if you're not feeling it, it's probably not going to work.
Exactly. You have to connect with them on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And the document also stresses the importance of saying your affirmations out loud. When you speak, you engage more of your senses, you hear yourself, you're physically articulating the words, so it just has a much deeper impact.
So it's not enough to just think them in your head?
It's definitely more powerful when you say them out loud. And here's an interesting tip. Try using a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, looking yourself in the eye while you say your affirmations can add a whole other level of intensity and authenticity. It's a way to really own those statements and connect with yourself on a deeper level.
I can see how that would amplify the message, though it might feel a little awkward at first.
It might feel strange initially, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Makes sense. What else?
Consistency is absolutely key. The document emphasizes repeating your affirmations every single morning. Think of it like a mental workout. You have to show up regularly to see results.
Okay, so no skipping affirmation days. It's got to be a daily habit.
Exactly. And finally, don't just recite them in a monotone. Really try to feel the emotion behind the words.
Well, it's about embodying the feeling, not just going through the motions.
You got it. If you're saying, I am confident, really try to tap into that feeling of confidence, even if it's just a glimmer at first.
Fake it till you make it, kind of.
In a way, yeah. You're essentially training your mind to believe it.
Interesting. So to sum it up, the document suggests a pretty simple format. You find a comfortable, quiet spot, maybe sit or stand in a way that feels good, take a deep breath to center yourself, and then say maybe 5 to 10 affirmations out loud, slowly and with feeling.
That's a great starting point, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about affirmations in general. Let's get a bit more specific. The document really emphasizes the importance of confidence. Why is that such a crucial ingredient for success, in your view?
Well, I think a lot of people, maybe even you, tend to think of confidence as being kind of loud or arrogant. But true confidence is much quieter than that. It's about that deep inner belief in yourself, your abilities, your worth. It's an inner strength, not an outward show.
Right, it's not about bragging or putting others down. It's about trusting yourself.
Exactly. And that's what allows you to go after what you want in life, to take risks, to overcome challenges, to achieve your goals.
And how do morning affirmations specifically help build that kind of confidence?
In a few key ways. First, they can help you silence that inner critic, that voice that tells you you're not good enough, smart enough, or whatever enough.
Ugh, that inner critic can be so annoying, like a constant stream of negativity.
It can be, but affirmations help you counter those thoughts with more positive, empowering ones. They also help you overcome fear and doubt by reminding yourself of your capabilities and past successes.
It's like you're actively replacing those limiting beliefs with ones that support your growth.
Exactly. And by consistently affirming your worthiness and abilities, you're more likely to speak up for yourself. to act with courage, to go after what you really want.
So it's not just about feeling confident, it's about acting confidently.
Absolutely. Confidence leads to action, which then leads to results, which then reinforces your confidence even more. It's a positive cycle.
And the document makes it clear that confidence isn't some fixed trait, right? It's something you can develop and strengthen over time.
Exactly. Every time you repeat an affirmation with feeling, it's like doing a rep at the gym for your confidence muscles. You're building strength and resilience.
Love that analogy. So we've got confidence covered. Now let's talk about success. The document also dives into that, right?
It does, and it makes a really important point about success being a personal thing. What constitutes success for one person might be completely different for someone else.
Totally. There's no one-size-fits-all definition. It could be financial abundance, a fulfilling career, strong relationships, making a difference in the world, or just living a life that feels aligned with your values.
Exactly. And that's where affirmations can be so powerful. They help you define what success truly means for you, and then stay focused on achieving it.
So it's not about chasing some external standard of success, but about figuring out what truly matters to you and aligning your actions with that.
Precisely. Affirmations act as those daily reminders, keeping you on track with your own unique definition of success.
That's so important, especially in today's world where we're bombarded with messages about what we should be striving for.
It's about tuning out that noise and really connecting with your own inner compass.
Okay, I'm ready to hear some specific examples. The document provides a whole bunch of affirmations, both for confidence and for success. What are some of your favorites?
Well, let's start with confidence. There's one that I really like. I am confident and courageous. It's simple, but it sets a powerful intention.
It's like a bold statement of self-belief.
It is. And then there's, I trust myself to make the right decisions. That one's really helpful for those times when you're feeling unsure or second-guessing yourself.
Oh, I need that one in my life for sure.
It's a good one. Another one that I find really empowering is, I release all self-doubt. It's like actively choosing to let go of those limiting beliefs.
It's like giving yourself permission to believe in your potential.
Exactly. And then there are two that are just really grounding. I am enough, and my inner strength guides me. They remind you of your inherent worth and your ability to handle whatever comes your way.
Those are beautiful. They speak to that deep inner knowing that we all have. Okay, what about some affirmations for success? What resonates with you there?
There's one that's great for setting a positive expectation. I am successful in everything I do. It's about believing in your ability to achieve, no matter what you're tackling.
It's like setting yourself up for success from the start.
It is. And then there's, I attract opportunities and abundance. It's about opening yourself up to possibilities and believing that good things are coming your way.
It's like shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
Exactly. Another one that I find really motivating is, my goals are within reach. It helps you maintain that sense of possibility and keep pushing forward, even when things get tough.
It's a reminder that you're capable of achieving what you set your mind to.
Yes. And I love this one. I am the architect of my destiny. It emphasizes your own agency and your ability to create the life you want.
It's about taking ownership of your path, rather than feeling like you're at the mercy of circumstances.
Exactly. And finally, I wake up with purpose and energy. It sets a really positive and proactive tone for your whole day.
It's like choosing to approach your day with intention and enthusiasm rather than just going through the motions.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got a great list of affirmations to work with. The document also mentions that you can boost their effectiveness by combining them with other practices. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. It specifically mentions visualization and meditation as being super helpful. With visualization, you basically create a mental movie of yourself already achieving your goals while you're repeating your affirmations.
So it's about not just saying the words, but really seeing and feeling yourself living that success.
Exactly. It makes it all the more real and tangible. And meditation helps to quiet your mind and create a space of calm and focused intention.
It's like creating that fertile ground in your mind for those affirmations to really take root.
Precisely. The document also suggests using calming music or nature sounds to enhance the experience.
It's all about creating a relaxing and supportive environment for this practice.
Right. And if you want to take it even further, you can combine your affirmations with deep breathing or gentle yoga.
So it's about creating a mind-body connection, using both mental and physical practices to reinforce those positive beliefs.
That's the idea.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds amazing, but how do I fit it into my already crazy morning routine? What does the document suggest for creating a manageable practice?
It actually provides a really simple 15-minute morning routine that integrates all these elements. It suggests starting with 2 minutes of deep breathing to center yourself, then 5 minutes of affirmations, maybe choose 10 or 15, that really speak to you.
Okay, that sounds doable.
Right? Then you've got 3 minutes of visualization, really bringing those goals to life in your mind. And finally, 5 minutes of journaling or gratitude practice.
So you're starting your day with intention, focus, and appreciation.
Exactly. And the document stresses that you can totally personalize this routine. The key is consistency, not perfection.
So even if you only have 5 minutes, it's better to do a little bit consistently than a lot sporadically.
That's the key takeaway.
Okay, so we covered a lot of ground. But does this stuff actually work? Does the document share any real-life examples of how morning affirmations have changed people's lives?
It does. While it doesn't get into specific individual stories, it does talk about how tons of people from all walks of life have reported experiencing significant benefits from this practice.
Really? What kinds of benefits are we talking about here?
Well, a lot of people report feeling less anxious and more focused throughout the day.
That makes sense, given what we talked about with stress reduction and mental clarity.
Right. And then there are people who have experienced career breakthroughs, stronger relationships, and just a greater sense of purpose and motivation in their lives.
So it's not just about feeling good, it's about seeing tangible results in different areas of your life.
That's what the document emphasizes.
Yeah.
It's about creating real positive change.
That's pretty inspiring. But are there any common mistakes people make when they're first starting out with affirmations? Things to watch out for?
Definitely. The document highlights a few. One of the biggest ones is reciting affirmations without any emotion. You have to really feel them, believe them, for them to work their magic.
It's about embodying the feeling, not just saying the words.
Exactly. Another mistake is trying to do too much too soon. It's better to focus on a few key affirmations that resonate with you deeply rather than overwhelming yourself with a ton of them.
So quality over quantity.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of inconsistency. You can't just do affirmations every now and then and expect to see lasting results. It's got to be a daily habit.
Right. It's like any other practice. Consistency is key.
And the document also cautions against using affirmations that you simply don't believe. If you're affirming something that feels completely out of reach, it's probably not going to have much impact.
You need to start with something that feels at least somewhat achievable and then gradually work your way up.
That's a good approach. And finally, remember that affirmations are most effective when they're paired with action.
Right. You can't just affirm your way to success without actually doing anything.
It's about creating that positive mental framework that supports your efforts and fuels your motivation to take action.
It's like affirmations provide the wind in your sails, but you still need to steer the ship.
Great analogy.
Now, besides affirmations, does the document recommend any other morning practices that can help boost confidence and success?
Yes. It suggests a few other things that can really complement your affirmation practice. Journaling is a great one. It helps you process your thoughts and feelings, track your progress, and gain greater self-awareness.
Journaling is definitely a powerful tool for self-discovery.
It is. The document also recommends incorporating some kind of movement into your morning, whether it's stretching, yoga, or a brisk walk.
It's all about getting the body moving and the energy flowing.
Right. And listening to motivational audio or podcasts can be another great way to start your day on a positive note.
It's like surrounding yourself with positive messages and inspiration.
Exactly. And then there are a few other things it mentions, like planning your top 3 goals for the day, practicing gratitude, and reading something inspiring or educational.
So it's about creating a holistic morning routine that sets you up for success in all areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Now, the document also talks about the importance of our inner dialogue, that constant stream of self-talk that's happening in our minds. How does that tie into affirmations?
The document makes a really important point. Your inner voice has a huge impact on your outer reality. If you're constantly putting yourself down or focusing on the negative, it's going to be really hard to achieve your goals, even if you're using affirmations.
So even if you're affirming positive things, those negative thoughts can sabotage your efforts.
They can. That's why it's so important to become aware of your self-talk and to consciously choose to shift it to a more positive and supportive place.
Can you give us an example of what that might look like in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're about to take on a new challenge, and that inner voice starts whispering, "You're going to fail, you're not good enough." Instead of letting that thought take over, you can consciously choose to replace it with an affirmation like, "I am capable of handling this, I am learning and growing,
So it's about catching those negative thoughts and flipping them on their head, replacing them with more empowering beliefs.
Exactly. It takes practice, but it's a powerful way to change your mindset and your results.
Now, how do you track your progress with affirmations? Does the document offer any tips?
It does. It suggests using a daily checklist or a journal to note the affirmations you're using, as well as your mood and energy levels before and after your practice. You can also track your progress towards your bigger goals.
So it's about paying attention to how you're feeling and whether your actions are aligned with your affirmations.
Right. Tracking your progress helps you stay accountable and motivated. It also allows you to see the positive changes you're making over time.
It's like giving yourself that tangible evidence that your efforts are paying off.
Exactly.
What about journaling? Are there any specific journal prompts that you'd recommend for people who are using affirmations?
The document has some great ones. Here are a few. What am I most proud of accomplishing today? What is one thing I genuinely appreciate about myself? What specific success am I actively working toward right now? What is one limiting belief I can let go of today? And how will I choose to show up confidently in the world today?
Those are really powerful questions. They really encourage reflection and intention setting.
They do. And the document also mentions a cool idea, creating personalized affirmation cards.
Affirmation cards, what are those?
You can basically write your affirmations on index cards or use a notes app on your phone or tablet. It's a great way to keep your affirmations fresh and engaging. You can shuffle them and choose a few each day, or you can organize them by themes like confidence, success, gratitude, or self-love.
So it's like a personalized deck of cards that you can use to tailor your practice to your specific needs and goals.
That's the idea. It's about making the practice your own.
So to wrap it all up, it sounds like starting your day with purpose, specifically through the consistent and mindful use of morning affirmations, can be a really powerful way to build confidence and achieve success, however you define it.
That's the key takeaway, for sure. It's about taking those first few moments of your day to shape your mindset and set a positive trajectory for everything that follows.
And remember, even a few minutes each day can make a huge difference.
Every new day is a fresh start.
On that note, here's a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. If you could choose one core belief about yourself, one that, if you truly believed it, could make the biggest positive impact on your life, what would it be? And how would you affirm that belief every single morning?
That's a powerful question.
It is. And that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive where we take some really cool stuff and break it down so you don't have to.
That's right. Today we're diving into a source that I think will really resonate with a lot of you out there. It's all about making the most of your morning routine to level up your English skills.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, think about it. How many of us are already trying to squeeze language learning into our crazy busy schedules?
It's tough, right? But this guide we've got called Everyday English Conversations for Your Morning Routine.pdf, it kind of flips the script and shows us that those everyday moments, those first few hours of the day, are actually packed with opportunities to practice.
Yeah, I love that idea of hidden potential, just waiting to be unlocked. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this deep dive.
Totally. We're going to break down those everyday morning scenarios and pull out all the gems, the phrases, the vocabulary, the practical tips that you can start using right away.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning, right? That moment when the alarm goes off, or maybe you hit the snooze button a few times, like me.
Guilty as charged. Haha. But even those kind of bleary-eyed moments are full of language potential.
Totally. I mean, think about those first words you might say, or think, good morning, time to wake up. Or, I'm still sleepy.
Or if you had a rough night, I didn't sleep well last night. Which honestly, let's be real, who hasn't been there?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's that classic, I need 5 more minutes, as you're clinging to those last precious moments of sleep.
And of course, the frantic, where's my phone, as you search for that lifeline to the outside world.
Yep. I think we've all been there. What's so cool, though, is that these super simple phrases, they're like universal connectors, No matter where you are in the world, chances are people are saying or thinking the same things.
It's so true. And the source actually points this out. It emphasizes how these seemingly basic phrases are the foundation of everyday communication.
And they even give us a little snippet of a dialogue between two people, Emma and Jake, who are waking up late. It goes like this. Good morning, Emma says. And Jake's like, morning, I didn't hear the alarm. And then there's that slight panic. It's 7:15 already. You're going to be late. It's just so relatable,
It is. And it's also a reminder that real conversations, They're not always grammatically perfect or super complex.
Exactly. It's more about just getting your message across in a natural and understandable way.
And speaking of learning naturally, let's talk about the vocabulary boost we get from this section of the source.
Yeah, there's some really useful words here, like alarm clock, of course, and snooze, which some of us might be a little too familiar with.
Haha, no judgment here. Then we have groggy, which perfectly describes that fuzzy-headed feeling after you first wake up.
And stretch, which is something I definitely need to do more of in the morning. The source even gives us a great example sentence. I woke up feeling groggy, so I hit the snooze button twice.
I love how they show us the words in action like that. It makes them so much easier to remember.
Totally. And it actually taps into how our brains learn best, right? By associating words with real experiences and contexts.
Exactly. Our brains are wired to make connections. So when we see a word like groggy and it's linked to that feeling, we all know it just sticks better.
Makes total sense. So we've tackled those first few moments after waking up. Now let's move on to another essential part of the morning routine. The bathroom.
Ah, yes, the bathroom. Another goldmine for language practice. Even something as simple as asking if the bathroom is free can be a chance to use your English.
Totally. The source gives us this example conversation between Sarah and Tom. Is the bathroom free? Sarah asks, and Tom's like, I'm almost done, just brushing my teeth. Then Sarah's like, okay, but please hurry up. I have to shower before work. And Tom says, give me 5 minutes.
Such a classic morning scenario, right? That little dance around shared resources.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the great thing is you can practice this dialogue whether you actually live with someone or not. You can imagine yourself in that situation and just say the lines out loud.
Exactly. And the bathroom vocabulary list is so practical. You've got all the essentials: toothpaste, toothbrush, floss, mouthwash.
Then you've got the hair care essentials: shampoo, conditioner, soap, towel.
And of course, the things we see when we look at the mirror, sink, razor, hair dryer. Just mentally naming these items in English as you use them is a super easy way to reinforce those words.
Okay, so the source also gives us some really actionable tips for this stage of the morning routine, like narrating your actions in English.
Yeah, I love this one. So as you're brushing your teeth, you can say, I'm brushing my teeth. Or as you're washing your face, I'm washing my face. It might feel a little silly at first, but it's seriously effective.
Because you're creating that direct link between the physical action and the English phrase, which, as we said earlier, is how our brains learn best.
Exactly. And another great tip is watching short English videos while you're getting ready, multitasking at its finest.
Oh, for sure. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you can even practice your pronunciation in front of the mirror. Really focus on how you're forming the sounds with your mouth.
It's all about making the most of those little pockets of time throughout your morning.
Okay, so we've covered waking up and the bathroom routine. Now what's next on the morning agenda?
Well, for most people, it's time to fuel up for the day ahead. Let's talk about breakfast conversations.
Yeah, because breakfast isn't just about getting energy. It's also a prime opportunity for some really useful English practice.
You know, it's funny how many common phrases and questions we use around breakfast without even thinking about it. Like, what do you want for breakfast? Do you want eggs or toast?
Or the simple, I'm making coffee. Can you pass the milk? We're out of cereal. These are all phrases that come up in so many households every single morning.
And the source gives us a really great example of a typical breakfast conversation at home between a mom and her son, Alex. It starts with, good morning, what would you like for breakfast? And Alex says, can I have scrambled eggs and toast? And the mom's like, sure, do you want tea or coffee? And Alex replies, just water, please. I'm not really hungry today.
It's such a simple and relatable exchange, and yet it's packed with useful language.
And it highlights how, even in those everyday moments with family, we can be practicing our English without it feeling forced or awkward.
Totally. Now, the source also takes us beyond the home and into a cafe setting, which introduces a whole new set of phrases that are super valuable to know.
For sure. Like, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. Can I have a bagel with cream cheese? Do you have any vegan options? And of course, that classic, can I get that to go?
And they give us a sample dialogue of a customer ordering at a cafe. The customer says, hi, can I get a cappuccino and a blueberry muffin, please? The barista asks, would you like that for here or to go? The customer says, to go, please. And then the barista's like, okay, that'll be $5.75. Can I get your name for the order?
It's such a typical cafe interaction, and it shows us how to navigate that situation smoothly in English.
And we get another awesome vocabulary list this time, focusing on breakfast foods and drinks and cafe-related terms.
Yes, so we have breakfast staples like toast, eggs, bacon, oatmeal, cereal, pancakes.
For drinks, we have coffee, tea, juice, smoothie, milk.
And then for the cafe itself, we have words like order, menu, to go, dine in, receipt, change. Knowing these words just makes those cafe experiences so much less stressful.
Absolutely. And the source gives us a really cool practice tip for this section. It suggests repeating simple dialogues like the ones we just went through aloud while you're actually preparing or eating breakfast.
Yeah, it's like you're immersing yourself in the scenario and anchoring those phrases in a relevant context.
And if you're feeling extra dedicated, they also suggest recording yourself and listening back. This can help you identify any areas where your pronunciation or intonation could be improved.
Great idea. It's like having your own personal language coach.
Okay, so moving on to the next section of the guide, which focuses on talking with family or roommates in the morning.
This is all about utilizing those natural interactions you have with the people you live with to practice your English in a comfortable and low-pressure environment.
Exactly. I mean, think about those common morning greetings and questions you might exchange, like, did you sleep well? What's your plan for today? I've got a busy day ahead.
Or even just a simple, let's have a good day today. These little phrases can go a long way in both practicing your English and strengthening those relationships.
The source gives us a sample conversation between two roommates. Roommate 1 says, morning, how'd you sleep? And roommate 2 is like, pretty well, I was so tired last night. Roommate 1 says, same here, I've got a meeting at 9, you. And roommate 2 replies, class starts at 8, I need to rush.
It's just a snippet of everyday life,
Yeah.
but it shows how easy it is to incorporate English into those casual conversations.
And I love the example they give of a parent giving their child some morning motivation. The parent says, you've got this, just give it your best today. And the child responds, thanks, I'll try my hardest. It's such a sweet exchange, and it shows how even brief, encouraging phrases can be a great way to practice.
Absolutely. And it highlights how language is so much more than just words. It's about connecting with others and expressing ourselves.
Totally. Now, this section also introduces some useful vocabulary for talking about your daily plans.
Yes. So we have chores, which refers to those routine household tasks. Errands, which are those short trips you need to make schedule, which is your overall plan for the day. And appointment, which is a specific time you set for something.
Knowing these words will definitely come in handy when you're chatting with your family or roommates about your day.
And the source gives us some cool tips for making the most of these morning conversations with the people you live with.
Yeah, like starting a morning question habit. So committing to asking one new question each day in English.
It's a great way to challenge yourself and actively use the language.
And another tip is to use sticky notes with English phrases around your home, like on the fridge, the mirror, wherever you'll see them often.
Those visual reminders can be surprisingly effective in keeping your brain engaged with the language.
So we're moving right along. Now we're getting to that part of the morning where we're getting ready for work or school, section 4 in the source.
Yeah, it's all about those practicalities of preparing to leave the house. And naturally, a lot of the language we use in this stage revolves around time.
Definitely. Like, what time is it? We're running late. I've got 10 minutes to get ready. Do you have everything you need?
Those familiar phrases that we probably all say or hear at some point during the morning rush.
And the source gives us this super relatable dialogue between two people, Alex and Lily, who are getting ready to leave. Alex asks, did you pack your bag? And Lily's like, yes, I've got my laptop and charger. Then Alex reminds her, don't forget your lunch. And Lily's like, thanks, what time do we leave? And Alex says, in 10 minutes.
It's just a little snapshot of a typical morning, but it shows us how these everyday conversations can be great opportunities to practice.
And of course, we get another helpful vocabulary list. This time, it's all about those essential items we need for work or school.
Yeah, so we have backpack keys, wallet, ID card. Those are the absolute must-haves. Then there are things you might need for work or study, like notebook, pen charger, headphones.
And then, depending on the weather or your dress code, you might need a uniform, jacket, umbrella, or certain shoes. Just mentally listing these items in English as you're gathering them is a great way to reinforce the vocabulary.
And the source also points out some common questions you might ask or hear in the morning related to school or work, like, what subject do you have first? Do you have any meetings today?
Or in today's world, a very relevant question, are you working from home or going in? These are all great examples of how the language we use can reflect current trends and situations.
And for this section, the source suggests a really fun practice tip, using a mirror to act out conversations.
Yeah, they give this example, I'm wearing my blue shirt today, have a math test, I need to leave by 7:30. It's like you're putting yourself in that situation and really practicing those phrases as if you were talking to someone.
It's a great way to boost your confidence and make the language feel more real.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another prime opportunity for English practice, the commute.
Yes. Section 5 of the source is all about commuting and small talk. That time we spend traveling to work or school can actually be a really valuable learning experience.
Totally. Even if you're not having full-blown conversations, you can still be listening to English thinking in English, or even just observing how people interact around you.
And if you do want to strike up a conversation, the source gives us some helpful conversation starters, like, how's the traffic? It's a bit crowded today. The bus is late. I hope we're not late.
Those are all very relatable observations that can lead to further discussion.
And they provide an example of a simple exchange on the bus. Anna says, hi. Is this seat taken? Ben replies, no, go ahead. Anna says, thanks. Do you take this bus every day? And Ben's like, yeah, it's usually on time, but not today. It's just a brief interaction, but it shows how you can use those small talk opportunities to practice.
And the source suggests some great topics for small talk, like the weather, which is always a safe bet.
News can be a good one too, though. It's probably best to stick to more neutral topics, as the source wisely points out.
Yeah, you don't want to accidentally spark a debate on your morning commute.
And weekend plans are always a nice, lighthearted topic to chat about.
Totally. Now, this section also gives us a really useful list of travel vocabulary.
Yes, words like bus stop, train station, subway, platform schedule. Knowing these terms will definitely make navigating public transportation in an English-speaking environment a lot easier.
And then there are those practical words we often encounter when traveling, like rush hour, traffic jam, fare, ticket, pass.
The source gives us some great tips for making the most of our commute time, like listening to English podcasts or news, which is a fantastic way to turn that travel time into learning time.
And even just making an effort to greet people with a smile and a simple hello or good morning can be a good way to practice and boost your confidence.
Absolutely. It's all about those little interactions that add up over time.
Okay, so we're nearing the end of our deep dive, and the final section of the source focuses on something really interesting: morning motivation and self-talk in English.
Yes. This is all about using the power of our internal dialogue to set ourselves up for a successful day and reinforce our language learning.
I love this idea because our self-talk can have such a huge impact on our mood and our overall outlook.
Totally. And the source suggests incorporating some positive self-talk phrases into our morning routine. Things like, I'm ready to start the day. I can handle anything that comes my way. Today is full of opportunities. I believe in myself.
Saying these phrases out loud, even if it feels a little strange at first, can really help to shift your mindset in a positive direction.
And they suggest creating a little morning affirmation routine. Stand in front of the mirror, give yourself a smile, and say 3 affirmations in English, repeating each one twice.
It's a simple but powerful way to start your day with intention and to get your brain thinking in English.
They provide some great examples of affirmations like, I am learning English every day, I am confident, focused, and positive, I attract good things with my attitude, and that important reminder, mistakes help me grow.
It's all about cultivating that positive growth mindset, which is essential for language learning and for life in general.
Absolutely. And they even give an example of how you can use self-talk in English to prepare for a specific situation, like a big meeting. They suggest saying something like, okay, stay calm, I've prepared well, just speak clearly and smile, I've got this.
It's like giving yourself a little pep talk in English to boost your confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source points out some useful vocabulary related to emotions and goals. So we have words like confident, nervous, excited, focused to describe how you might be feeling.
And then we have words like task, challenge, goal, achievement, which relate to what you're working towards.
It's all about expanding your vocabulary so you can express yourself more fully in English.
Now, the source also gives us some really practical tips for practicing self-talk in English, like keeping a journal and writing just 3 lines in English every morning.
That's a great way to solidify new vocabulary and practice structuring sentences.
And recording your voice, as we mentioned before, is always a valuable exercise for improving pronunciation.
Another great tip is to start your day with a gratitude practice by saying, I am thankful for, and then listing a few things you're grateful for in English.
It's a wonderful way to cultivate a positive mindset while also getting in some language practice.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that our morning routines are full of untapped potential for English language learning.
We've covered so much ground, from waking up to getting ready to commuting, and even the power of our own internal dialogue.
And the key takeaway is that by making small but consistent efforts to incorporate English into these everyday moments, we can accelerate our progress and make learning feel more natural and integrated into our lives.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's about finding those little pockets of time and using them wisely.
And as the source encourages, the most important step is simply to start speaking English tomorrow morning, even if it's just one or two new phrases.
So here's a little challenge for you as you go about your day. Think about one new English phrase that you can consciously incorporate into your morning routine tomorrow.
It could be something as simple as, "Good morning, world," or "I'm going to make the most of this day."
Whatever it is, embrace that opportunity to use the language and see where it takes you.
You might be surprised at the connections and insights that emerge from those small but consistent efforts.
So that's it for this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. And remember, the power to level up your English is right there in your morning routine.
So go out there and make the most of it.
See you next time.
Bye, everyone. Okay, so you've given us a ton to work with here. It's like a productivity masterclass all packed into one, right? We've got like super practical tips, we've got habit building stuff, and then even the mindset piece all kind of intertwined. And what we want to do today, I mean, our real goal with this deep dive is to go through all of it and pull out the most useful stuff, the things you can really use to get more done and feel better about, how you're spending your time.
I think we can definitely do that.
Yeah. So to get started, I mean, just looking at what you brought, there are three big buckets that really jumped out. What productivity actually is, like, defining it, and then all the practical stuff like tips and habits, and then, like I said, that whole mindset piece, which seems super important. So maybe before we even jump into that, and I'm curious to hear what you think too, when you think about your own productivity, where do you get stuck? What are you hoping we can kind of figure out together today?
Well, I think one thing that people, myself included, sometimes struggle with is just the feeling of being overwhelmed, right? Like there's just so much to do, so many demands on our time, and it's hard to know where to even start sometimes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I totally get that. And it's funny because one of the documents you sent actually talked about that right off the bat, this idea that just being busy doesn't mean you're productive.
Right.
It's not about checking off a million tiny tasks. It's about doing things that actually matter.
That's exactly right. And there's this one quote that really stood out to me. It said, productivity is about being effective, not just efficient.
Ooh, I like that. Effective, not just efficient. So what's the difference then? I mean, how do we actually put that into practice?
Well, another one of your sources actually had this really cool equation for productivity. It's super simple, but it makes you think. It said, productivity equals useful output divided by time spent.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's not just about how much you get done, but how useful that stuff actually is, right? And how long it took you.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about maximizing that top part of the equation, that useful output, while also being smart about how we use our time, that bottom part.
And it sounds like the sources you brought, they really emphasize this idea of having the right systems in place, good habits, and even the right mindset to make that happen, to kind of find that sweet spot.
Definitely. You can't just willpower your way through it. You need a solid foundation.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, so let's dig into some of those systems and stuff. One that really jumped out at me was this thing called the Eisenhower matrix. Have you heard of that?
Yes, absolutely. Also sometimes referred to as the urgent important matrix.
Oh, right. So it's all about figuring out what you should focus on based on how urgent and important things are.
Exactly. It's a fantastic tool for prioritizing your tasks and making sure you're spending your time on the things that truly matter.
So walk us through it. How does it actually work?
So imagine a square divided into 4 boxes. The top left box is for tasks that are both urgent and important. These are the things that you absolutely have to deal with right away, like crises or deadlines that are about to hit.
Okay, so that's the drop everything and do it now zone.
Exactly. Then the top right box is for tasks that are important, but not necessarily urgent. These are things that contribute to your long-term goals and well-being, like planning, learning, and relationship building.
So that's stuff you need to make time for, but it might not be screaming for your attention right this second.
Right. Then we move to the bottom left. This box is for tasks that are urgent, but not actually that important. These are things that often feel pressing, but don't contribute much to your overall goals, like certain emails or requests from others that could be delegated.
Okay, so those are things you should try to get off your plate if you can.
Right, precisely. And finally, the bottom right box is for things that are neither urgent nor important. These are time wasters that you should eliminate as much as possible. Things like mindless scrolling on social media or watching TV when you have other things you should be doing.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I can definitely see how using this could really help you focus, by figuring out what actually deserves your attention.
And I think one really key takeaway from the Eisenhower matrix is that importance often has a longer-term perspective. It requires connecting tasks to your overarching goals, not just responding to what feels most pressing in the moment.
Oh, that's so true. It's easy to get caught up in the urgency of things and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Exactly. And that's where the discipline comes in, being able to step back and constantly reevaluate where your tasks truly fall on that matrix.
Makes sense. Okay, so once you've got a handle on your priorities, another technique that came up in your sources was time blocking. Have you used that?
Oh yeah, time blocking has been a game changer for me. It's essentially scheduling specific blocks of time in your calendar for specific tasks.
So instead of just writing work on project X on your to-do list, you actually block out, say, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in your calendar for it, right?
Exactly. And one of your documents actually gave a great example of a time block schedule. It was something like 9 to 11 deep work on project A, then 11 to 12 for emails, then lunch, then meetings in the afternoon, and so on. It basically lays out a clear roadmap for your day.
I love that. I mean, I use my calendar all the time, but I've never really thought about using it that way.
And what I love about it is that it really helps with decision fatigue, because you've already decided in advance what you're going to be working on and when, so you're not constantly having to make that choice throughout the day.
Oh, that's such a good point. I mean, how many times have we sat down to work and then just wasted 20 minutes trying to figure out what to do first?
Exactly. And it also helps with focus because you're creating these dedicated chunks of time for concentrated effort, which can really minimize that urge to jump between different tasks.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try that. So we've talked about the Eisenhower matrix for prioritizing and time blocking for scheduling. What other tactical things did you find in those materials?
Oh, there were so many good ones. Let's see. One that's super simple but effective is the 2-minute rule.
Okay, tell me about that one.
So it's often attributed to David Allen, the productivity guru. And the idea is basically if a task takes less than 2 minutes to complete, just do it right away. Don't put it on a list. Don't schedule it for later. Just knock it out.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it's amazing how those little things can pile up and take up space in your brain, even though they take no time to actually do.
Exactly. It's like a proactive way to clear your mental clutter.
Yeah, definitely. So what else?
Another one that stood out was the Pomodoro technique.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. It's that thing with the timer, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you basically work in short, focused bursts, usually 25 minutes of work followed by a 5-minute break. And then after 4 of those cycles, you take a longer break, like 15 or 20 minutes.
Right. I've always thought about it more as a way to prevent burnout, but I guess it also helps with focus, right?
Definitely. Those timed intervals create a sense of urgency, a micro deadline, if you will, which can actually help you get more done in those 25-minute bursts.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got prioritization, scheduling, tackling small tasks, and working in focus bursts. Anything else on the practical tip front?
One more that I think is really important, especially in today's world, is single tasking.
Oh, tell me about it. It feels like we're constantly being pulled in a million directions.
Right. And we often think we're being more efficient by multitasking, but research actually shows that it can lead to lower quality work and more mistakes.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that. You think you're getting more done, but then you realize you've actually messed stuff up because you weren't really paying attention.
Exactly. Our brains aren't really designed to handle multiple complex tasks simultaneously. And there's this cognitive cost associated with switching between tasks that really adds up over time.
Right. So the idea with single tasking is to just fully focus on one thing at a time until it's done and then move on to the next.
Exactly. It allows for deeper concentration and ultimately leads to much better results.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've covered some really concrete strategies, but your sources also talked a lot about habits, right? How important they are for, making this stuff stick.
Oh, absolutely. Habits are the foundation of sustainable productivity.
And one of the things that really stood out to me was this concept of the habit loop. They broke it down into 3 parts: cue, routine, reward. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the cue is basically the trigger that initiates the habit. It could be a certain time of day, a location, an emotional state, or even another action.
Okay, so it's the thing that sets the habit in motion.
Exactly. Then the routine is the actual behavior itself, the thing you do automatically in response to the cue.
Got it. So if the cue is feeling stressed, the routine might be reaching for your phone to scroll through social media or something like that.
That's a perfect example, unfortunately. And then the reward is the positive reinforcement that strengthens the habit loop. It could be a feeling of pleasure, relief, accomplishment, or even just a sense of getting something done.
Right. So in that example, the reward might be the distraction from the stress, even though it's not actually a helpful habit in the long run.
Exactly. So the key to building good habits is to intentionally design that loop,
Yeah.
choose cues that are helpful, create routines that are beneficial, and find rewards that are both satisfying and supportive of your goals.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So when we're talking about productivity habits specifically, there were a few that really stood out in those materials, right?
Oh yeah, tons of good ones. Where should we start? Maybe with morning routines.
Yeah, that's a big one, right?
Right.
Everyone's always talking about morning routines.
It's because they're so powerful. Starting your day with intention can really set the tone for everything that follows.
So what kind of things were they recommending?
Well, there were the usual suspects like waking up early, hydrating first thing, getting some exercise in.
Right.
But there were also some less obvious ones like spending some time journaling or planning your day, or even incorporating mindfulness or meditation practices.
Oh, interesting. I guess the idea is to kind of prime your mind and body for the day ahead, right? Before you get sucked into the chaos of everything.
Exactly. It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then they also talked about the importance of winding down the day well, right? Like planning the night before.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge one. Specifically, they recommended taking a few minutes each evening to write down your top 3 priorities for the following day.
Oh, it's interesting. I've never really thought about doing that, but I can see how it would be helpful.
It's a great way to clear your mind before bed and reduce that decision fatigue in the morning. Instead of waking up and feeling overwhelmed by everything you have to do, you can just look at your list and know exactly where to start.
Right. So it's kind of like setting yourself up for success before you even go to sleep.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got morning routines, we've got planning the night before. What other habits stood out to you?
Let's see. Oh, one that's really interesting is the 80-20 rule, also known as the Pareto principle.
Okay, remind me what that one's about.
So the basic idea is that roughly 20% of your efforts tend to produce 80% of your results.
Oh, right. So most of what you do doesn't actually matter that much. It's just a small amount that really makes a difference.
Exactly. And when you apply that to productivity, it means focusing on those high leverage tasks, the ones that are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck.
Right. So you're not just trying to do everything, you're trying to do the right things.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your time and energy.
I like that. And I think that actually ties in really well with another concept they talked about, which was keystone habits.
Oh, yes, keystone habits. Those are the habits that have a ripple effect, They positively influence many other areas of your life.
Right, they create this kind of cascade of good things.
Exactly. And some examples they gave were exercise, daily journaling, and regular reading.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely see how those would have a big impact. I mean, exercise alone, it not only makes you physically healthier, but it also gives you more energy, improves your mood, and can even help you focus better.
Exactly. And journaling helps you clarify your thoughts, process your emotions, and track your progress. And reading exposes you to new ideas, expands your knowledge, and can even boost your creativity.
So it's not just about doing these things in isolation. It's about how they kind of build on each other and create this positive upward spiral.
Exactly. They create a foundation for a more productive and fulfilling life.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about practical tips and habits, but now I want to get into this whole mindset thing because it seemed like a really big deal in the stuff you said.
Oh, it's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Mindset is the underlying belief system that shapes our actions and determines our results.
And the big one they talked about was it a growth mindset?
Yes, a growth mindset.
So what exactly does that mean?
Well, it's basically the belief that our abilities and intelligence aren't fixed, but can be developed through effort and learning. It's contrasted with a fixed mindset, where people believe that their talents are mostly innate and unchangeable.
Oh, I see. So with a growth mindset, you believe that you can always learn and improve no matter where you're starting from.
Exactly. And one of the sources had these great examples to illustrate the difference. A growth mindset statement might be something like, I can learn anything if I put in the work.
Right, versus a fixed mindset statement, which might be something like, I'm just not good at math, or I'm not a creative person.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, even something as seemingly fixed as talent often boils down to consistent effort and deliberate practice over time.
That's so true. I mean, you think about like professional athletes or musicians, they weren't just born amazing.
Yeah.
They put in countless hours of practice.
Exactly. And the research really backs this up. People with a growth mindset tend to achieve more because they're not afraid to try new things, to make mistakes, to learn from their failures.
And that makes sense, right? If you believe that you can improve, then setbacks don't seem so discouraging.
Exactly. And they're also more likely to persevere when things get tough because they see challenges as opportunities for growth, not threats to their ego.
So what are some things people can do to actually cultivate a growth mindset?
Well, one thing is to actively embrace challenges. Instead of avoiding difficult tasks, see them as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay, so it's about leaning into the discomfort instead of running away from it.
Exactly. Another thing is to be open to feedback, even criticism. It's easy to get defensive, but feedback can be incredibly valuable for learning and improvement.
Right, and I guess with a growth mindset, you see feedback as information, not as a personal attack.
Precisely. Another thing is to focus on the process, not just the outcome. Celebrate effort and learning, not just results.
So even if you don't achieve the exact goal you set out to achieve, you can still acknowledge the progress you made and the things you learned along the way.
Exactly. And another really simple but powerful shift is to replace I can't with I can't yet.
Oh, I love that. It's like a subtle change in language, but it makes a huge difference in your mindset.
Right. It acknowledges that you're not there yet, but it leaves open the possibility of getting there in the future.
Okay, so embrace challenges, be open to feedback, focus on the process, and say, I can't yet. Anything else?
One more that I think is really important is to surround yourself with other growth-minded people. The people we spend time with have a huge influence on our beliefs and behaviors.
That's so true. I mean, if you're constantly around people who are negative and fixed in their thinking, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain a growth mindset.
Exactly. So seek out people who are positive, who are curious, who are constantly learning and growing themselves.
Okay, that's great advice. So we've talked about mindset, we've talked about habits, we've talked about practical strategies. What about the actual tools people can use to support their productivity?
Oh yeah, the tools are important too. They can make a huge difference in how organized and efficient we are.
And your sources had a ton of suggestions, both digital and analog.
They did. On the digital side, there are things like to-do list apps, note-taking apps, project management tools, time tracking apps, and even apps specifically for the Pomodoro technique.
Right. It's kind of overwhelming, actually, how many options there are.
It can be. But I think the key is to find the tools that work best for you, Experiment with different options and see what fits your workflow and your preferences.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what were some of the specific tools they mentioned?
For to-do lists, they mentioned Todoist and TickTick. For note-taking and project planning, they mentioned Notion and Evernote.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those. They're really popular.
They are. And then for visual project management, there were Trello and Asana. And for time tracking, there was Rescue Time.
Okay, and what about for the Pomodoro technique?
For that, they mentioned Forest and Focus Keeper.
Okay, cool. So a whole range of digital options. What about analog tools?
Yeah, even with all the cool digital stuff, there's still something to be said for the simplicity and tangibility of analog tools.
Right, like pen and paper.
Exactly. And one that they mentioned specifically was the bullet journal.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. They're really cool. It's like a highly customizable system for tracking everything.
Exactly. You can use it for to-do lists, notes, habit tracking, goal setting, journaling, pretty much anything.
Wow, that's pretty versatile. What other analog tools did they mention?
Well, just good old-fashioned paper planners. They're great for time blocking and scheduling appointments.
Yeah, I still use a paper planner. I just like being able to physically write things down.
Me too. There's something about the act of writing that helps solidify things in my mind.
Right, exactly. And I guess it's also nice to have something that's not constantly beeping at you with notifications.
Exactly. And finally, they mentioned whiteboards.
Oh yeah, those are great for brainstorming and visualizing ideas.
Exactly. And they can be really helpful for collaborating with others too.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about mindset, habits, practical strategies, tools. What else did you find in those materials that you thought was really important?
Well, one thing that really resonated with me was the emphasis on personal development and reflection.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
So they talked about the importance of setting aside time each week for reflection, to review your progress, identify challenges, and make adjustments to your strategies.
Right. So it's not just about doing the work. It's about taking the time to step back and see what's working and what's not.
Exactly. And they had some really good questions to guide this reflection process. Things like, what went well this week? What could I improve upon? What am I grateful for? What are my top priorities for the week ahead?
Those are great questions. I'm definitely going to start incorporating those into my weekly routine.
I think you'll find it really valuable. It helps you stay focused, make adjustments, and celebrate your progress.
Okay, so regular reflection. What else on the personal development front?
Well, they also talked about the importance of continuous learning. Even setting aside just 15 minutes a day to read a book, listen to a podcast, watch an educational video, or take an online course.
Right. I mean, it's amazing how much you can learn in just a few minutes a day if you're consistent.
It really is. And in today's world where things are changing so rapidly, it's more important than ever to be a lifelong learner.
So true. So reflection and learning. Anything else?
One more thing they emphasized was the importance of gratitude and mindfulness.
Oh yeah, those are good ones.
They are. Gratitude helps you focus on the positive and cultivate a more optimistic outlook. And mindfulness can help you reduce stress, improve your focus, and be more present in the moment.
Okay, so it's not just about getting things done. It's about taking care of yourself and your mental well-being.
Exactly. It's about creating a sustainable and fulfilling way of life.
Okay, so we've talked about all the positive stuff, the things that can help us be more productive. But what about the things that get in the way? Like the productivity killers.
Oh yeah, there are definitely some common culprits.
What were some of the ones they mentioned?
Let's see. Perfectionism was a big one.
Oh, tell me about it.
Right. It can be so paralyzing. You spend so much time trying to make everything perfect that you never actually get anything done.
Or you just get started way too late because you're so afraid of making a mistake.
Exactly. And then there's procrastination.
Oh yeah, that's a big one for me.
It's so tempting to put things off, especially when they feel difficult or overwhelming. But then you end up feeling stressed and rushed when the deadline is approaching.
Right. And the quality of your work probably suffers too.
Exactly. Another big one is lack of sleep.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm definitely less productive when I'm tired.
We all are. Sleep deprivation impairs our cognitive function, our mood, our energy levels, pretty much everything.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are distractions.
Oh, don't even get me started. It feels like we're bombarded with distractions all the time.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Social media, email, text messages, notifications, it's endless.
It's like our brains are being pulled in a million directions at once.
Exactly. And it makes it so hard to focus and get anything meaningful done.
So what can we do about all this?
Well, the good news is that there are things we can do. For perfectionism, one strategy is to set realistic expectations and deadlines.
Right, so you're not trying to achieve some unattainable standard of perfection.
Exactly. And it can also be helpful to break down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
That's a good one. It's less overwhelming that way.
Right. And for procrastination, one of the best things you can do is to just get started, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Yeah, sometimes just taking that first step is the hardest part.
It really is. And once you get going, you often find that it's not as bad as you thought it would be.
Right, and you start building momentum.
Exactly. And for sleep, the solution is pretty obvious. Make sure you're getting enough.
Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah, it's crucial.
It is. And finally, for distractions, it's all about creating boundaries and minimizing interruptions.
So like turning off notifications, putting your phone on silent, finding a quiet place to work.
Exactly. And there are also some great tools that can help block distracting websites and apps.
Oh yeah, like freedom and rescue time. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about mindset, habits, strategies, tools, productivity killers. But one thing that I kept coming back to in those materials was this idea of purpose.
Oh, absolutely. Purpose is essential.
Right. Like, what's the point of all this productivity if it's not actually directed towards something meaningful?
Exactly. It's not just about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done, the things that align with your values and your goals.
And they had some really good questions for figuring that out,
You
right?
did. Things like, why am I doing this? Does this align with my long-term goals? What kind of impact do I want to have?
Those are great questions to ask yourself regularly.
They are. They help you stay connected to your purpose and make sure you're not just spinning your wheels.
And I think that ties in really well with the idea of setting SMART goals.
Oh, absolutely. SMART goals are a fantastic way to translate your aspirations into concrete actions.
Right. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Exactly. And when you set goals that meet all of those criteria, you're much more likely to actually achieve them.
Okay, so purpose, goals, anything else on that front?
One more thing they mentioned was the importance of vision boards.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
They're a great way to visualize your goals and keep them top of mind.
Right. And it's not just about like putting pretty pictures on a board. It's about really connecting with the feelings you want to experience when you achieve those goals.
Exactly. It's about creating a visual representation of your ideal future.
Okay, so we're almost at the end here. We've covered a lot. But one final thing I want to touch on is this idea of momentum and consistency.
Oh, those are key.
Right, because it's not enough to just like know this stuff.
Yeah.
You have to actually do it, right?
Exactly. Knowledge without action is useless.
And one of the quotes that really stuck with me was, "You will never always be motivated, so you must learn to be disciplined."
That's so true. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. But discipline is what allows you to stay consistent even when you don't feel like it.
And they talked about a really cool strategy for building discipline, the don't break the chain method.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. It's so simple, but it works. You basically just mark off on a calendar each day that you successfully complete your chosen habit.
Right. And the goal is to just keep that chain going for as long as possible.
Exactly. It creates a visual representation of your progress, which can be really motivating.
And it also like kind of gamifies it, right?
Yeah.
It makes it fun to see how long you can keep the streak going.
Definitely. And then the final piece of advice they offered was to embrace the idea of progress over perfection.
Oh, that's so important.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to make everything perfect that you never actually get anything done.
Or you get so discouraged when you make a mistake that you just give up.
Exactly. So the key is to focus on making small, incremental improvements over time.
Right. And to celebrate those small wins.
Exactly. Because those small wins add up to big results over time.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into all this amazing material you brought, I think it's clear that becoming more productive is not about finding some, like, magic bullet, right?
Definitely not.
It's about understanding the principles, building the habits, finding the tools that work for you, and cultivating the right mindset.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach.
And it's a journey, not a destination, right?
Absolutely. It's about continuous improvement, experimentation, and adaptation.
So as you move forward, I would encourage you to think about what resonated most with you from this conversation. What one thing could you start doing today to make a positive impact on your productivity? And remember, even small, consistent actions can lead to significant results over time.
It's been great going through all of this.
This was awesome. Thank you so much for bringing us all this material.
Of course, my pleasure.
So, you sent over that morning vocabulary booster thing,
Yeah.
and it really piqued my interest. I got to say, I thought this was a pretty interesting approach for anyone, looking to really sharpen up their communication skills.
Definitely. It's, I think the whole concept of like starting your day with this kind of intentional focus on language
Right.
to kind of like boost how we think and express ourselves is really compelling.
For sure. And they're not messing around here either.
Right.
They're talking about over 150 words
Wow.
that they're going to help you kind of unpack and integrate.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But what I like is that they group them into these different categories.
Right.
So it feels a little less like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, for sure.
And more like, okay, I can kind of...
Bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Manageable chunks.
Exactly.
So that was encouraging right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think our mission here today is to really distill what this approach offers, for the listener who's, busy, wants to gain knowledge, but wants to do it efficiently and effectively and not feel overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And they make a pretty good case for why mornings are ideal for this kind of thing, too.
Right.
They talk about how, your mind is fresh. You've got that, blank slate in a way.
Right.
And that can lead to better absorption of new vocabulary, maybe even strengthen your memory. And it just sets a, more positive linguistic tone for your day.
I like that linguistic tone for the day.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
And they start with this category called powerful positive words.
Oh, okay.
And I'm curious, what do you see as the potential impact of starting your day, by really consciously engaging with language that carries that kind of positive weight?
Well, I think it's the intentionality of it that really stands out to me.
Okay.
Instead of just sort of passively encountering words throughout your day, you're actively choosing to introduce these concepts that are linked to, positive states of mind right at the start. Right.
So, for example, they talk about the word gratitude.
Okay.
And they define it pretty simply as thankfulness.
Okay.
But then they give you this little prompt. They say, start each day with a sense of gratitude for what you have. So it's like a direct invitation to cultivate that mindset through language.
Right. It's more than just knowing the definition of the word. It's about using it as a way to kind of like prime your thinking.
Exactly.
For that, state of being.
Yeah.
Then they have the word resilience, which is kind of a big one these days.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And they define it as the ability to recover from setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you a little example. They say, her resilience after the failure inspired everyone.
Right.
So you're not only getting the definition, but you're also seeing it in action.
I like that. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, and then there's this word vibrant, which I think is a really interesting choice.
It is.
They define it as full of life and energy.
And the example they give is, the morning sun made the garden look vibrant and colorful.
Ooh, that's nice.
So you're kind of like getting that sensory experience
Yes.
along with the word, which I think makes it even more memorable.
Definitely. And they suggest incorporating these words into a morning journal or affirmations.
Yep.
Which I think is a really practical takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to kind of read these definitions, but to actually like write them down
Right.
or speak them out loud,
It brings them to life.
Yeah, it really does.
It makes them real.
Okay, so then they shift gears a little bit and they move into this category of emotional vocabulary.
Okay.
And they really highlight how important it is to have a nuanced language for our feelings.
Yeah.
Why is that so important? Why is that precision so valuable?
Well, I think it all comes down to communication.
Okay.
When we have a wider vocabulary for our emotions, we can understand ourselves better.
Right.
And we can communicate more clearly with others. So they present this whole spectrum of emotions,
Okay.
Starting with positive feelings like elated,
Okay.
which they define as extremely happy,
Uh-huh.
and then ecstatic, which is like overjoyed.
Right, so it's like shades of
Shades of happy.
happy. Right, it's not just,
It's not just one-dimensional.
happy or sad. It's like,
Exactly.
there's a whole range.
There's a spectrum.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, they have words like apprehensive,
Right.
which they define as anxious or fearful, and then frustrated, which is like annoyed because of obstacles.
Yeah. And I think having those distinctions is so helpful because it allows us to be more honest and accurate about how we're really feeling.
For sure. And they don't shy away from the more, difficult emotions either.
No, they don't.
They have words like melancholy,
Right.
which is that gentle sadness,
Yeah.
and then grief, which is that, deep sorrow.
And I think that's important
Yeah.
because it acknowledges the full range of human experience. Absolutely.
And they also have this practice suggestion that I really like.
Okay.
They say, try describing your feelings each morning using 2 or 3 emotional words. And I think that's a really beneficial practice. It kind of encourages this daily habit of self-reflection and emotional articulation.
Yeah, it's like you're not just labeling your emotions, but you're actually developing a deeper awareness of them.
Exactly.
So then we move on to this category called daily use vocabulary.
Okay.
And this is where they get into those everyday words that we use all the time.
The bread and butter.
The bread and butter of communication, right?
Yeah.
But why is it important to consciously think about these words?
Well, because even though they seem basic,
Right.
a strong command of these foundational words makes your daily interactions so much smoother and clearer.
Okay.
So they have words like schedule,
Okay.
which they define as a plan of things to do, and routine, which is a regular way of doing things.
And then some really practical terms like delay,
All right.
which is to postpone something,
Right.
and chores, which are household tasks.
Right.
And, these might seem obvious,
Yeah.
but having a precise understanding of these words ensures that you're communicating effectively about all those common activities that we do every day.
And miscommunications can often happen
Oh, absolutely.
when we're not using those simple words precisely.
Yeah,
Right. So I like that they give these examples.
me too.
Like my schedule is packed today with meetings or a good morning routine. boosts productivity.
All right, puts them in context.
Yeah, grounds them in these relatable scenarios.
Exactly.
And then they have other words like errand,
Yes.
which is a short journey to do a task,
Okay.
and tidy, which is neat and organized.
I like that one.
And then they give you this challenge.
Okay.
They say, try using 5 of these words in a morning diary or voice note. So again, it's like taking it beyond just reading the definitions.
Right. It's about actively using them.
Yeah, making them your own.
Yeah.
So the next category is called professional vocabulary.
Okay.
And as you might guess, this is all about those words that can really enhance your communication in the workplace.
Yes. Very important.
Very important, right? Because, I mean,
Yeah. Your career depends on it.
well, yeah, to some extent, right?
At least your ability to communicate effectively.
To communicate effectively, for sure.
Yeah.
So how can focusing on this vocabulary give you an advantage professionally?
Well, I think in any professional setting, having a strong command of the relevant vocabulary allows you to communicate more clearly,
Okay.
more concisely, and with greater impact.
I like that, greater impact.
Yeah, you want to make sure your message is heard
Right.
and understood.
Right.
So they list words like deadline,
Yeah.
which is the last date to complete a task.
Right. Pretty fundamental.
Really fundamental.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to miss those.
No, you don't.
Then there's efficiency, which is doing something with minimal waste.
Uh-huh.
And prioritize, which means to arrange an order of importance.
Right.
And these are all essential concepts in pretty much any workplace.
And then you get into words that are a little bit more, about kind of soft skills,
Yes.
right? Like collaboration, which is working together,
Right.
innovative, which is creative and new.
And initiative,
Oh, yeah.
which is the ability to start things independently.
Right.
And I think understanding and using those words effectively can really boost your professional image.
Yeah, show that you're,
That you're a go-getter.
you're a go-getter,
Yeah.
that you're proactive.
Exactly.
And then they also have a lot of words around feedback,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
which is huge in the workplace these days, right?
Absolutely.
So they have feedback itself, which they define as response or opinion about work. But then they also have words like strategy,
Right.
which is a plan of action.
Essential for any business.
Right. And then you have productivity, which is the rate of completing tasks, and commitment, which is dedication to a cause.
Yeah, all very important.
And then they give you this tip.
Okay.
They say, try adding these words to your LinkedIn bio
Oh, that's smart.
or using them in morning team briefings.
Yeah.
So it's like concrete ways to actually integrate this vocabulary
Yeah.
into your professional life.
Very practical.
Okay, so then we get to the final category, which is advanced vocabulary.
Ooh, getting fancy.
Getting fancy, right? And this is where they really take things up a notch.
Yes,
And they introduce words that can add a lot of depth and sophistication to your communication.
for sure.
So what's the value in expanding your vocabulary in this way?
Well, I think mastering more advanced vocabulary allows you to express more nuanced ideas,
Okay.
and it can also enhance your understanding of complex texts and discussions.
Interesting.
So, for example, they have the word ephemeral,
Okay.
which they define as lasting for a short time. And they give this beautiful example. Morning mist is beautiful, but ephemeral.
Oh, I like that.
Right. So just using that one word
Yeah.
conveys this sense of fleeting beauty so much more elegantly than a simpler phrase.
It really paints a picture.
It does.
And then they have words that deal with complexity, like ambiguous, which means having multiple meanings.
Yeah, that one can be tricky.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's ubiquitous, which means present everywhere.
Right.
And understanding these words allows you to navigate and describe more intricate situations with greater precision.
Okay, so it's like you're giving yourself the tools to
To deal with the complexities of life.
yeah, to talk about the nuances.
Exactly.
And they have words like meticulous, which is extremely careful, and perseverance, which is persistent effort.
Yeah, and those words have a certain weight to them
Right.
that I think simpler synonyms might lack.
Yeah, they carry a certain gravitas.
They do.
And then there are words that describe states of mind like equanimity,
Oh, that's a good one.
which is mental calmness.
And that's a concept that's really valuable to be able to articulate, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it speaks to the power of language
Yeah,
to capture these subtle but important internal states.
absolutely.
And then they have some words that are related to communication itself,
Okay.
like cogent, which means clear and persuasive, and eloquent, which is fluent and expressive.
Nice.
And then you have this contrast between ineffable,
Right.
which is too great for words,
Yeah.
and cacophony, which is a harsh mix of sounds.
I love that word, cacophony.
It's a good one.
It's so descriptive.
It is.
Yeah.
And they give you this advanced tip for these words.
Oh, okay.
They say, try using flashcards or apps like Anki to really learn and retain these words.
And I think that's a good tip.
Yeah.
Because these are words that often require more deliberate effort to really make them stick.
Yeah, you can't just kind of like
glance at them and expect to remember them.
Yeah, you gotta put in the work.
You gotta do the reps.
So in addition to all these categories of words, they also present this weekly morning vocabulary plan.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
With specific themes for each day. What do you think about this kind of structured approach?
I think it's really smart.
Okay.
Because it gives you a clear roadmap.
Right.
And it prevents you from feeling overwhelmed by too many choices.
Yeah, it breaks it down into manageable chunks.
Exactly.
So like day 1 is motivation words.
Okay.
And they give you words like ambition, drive, hustle, focused, dedicated.
Yeah, all good ones.
So you can really immerse yourself in that theme.
Yeah, I like that.
And then day 2 is describing people.
Okay.
And they have words like charismatic, humble, gregarious, reserved, generous.
So you can use those right away in your interactions with people.
Right.
Yeah.
And then day 3 is feelings and moods, which kind of builds on that emotional vocabulary we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. With words like anxious, jubilant, cranky, hopeful, stressed.
And the week continues with themes like success language, communication words, energy and activity and reflection and growth.
Wow, they really cover a lot of ground.
They do. It's a really well-rounded approach.
It is.
And then they give you this pro tip.
Okay.
They say review all the words every Sunday. And I think that's key.
Yeah.
That regular reinforcement is so important for memory.
It is. It's like that spaced repetition.
Exactly.
That really helps things sink in.
And so following this weekly plan, could give you a really sustainable framework for vocabulary growth.
I think so, yeah.
And then they move on to this section called Tools to Practice Morning Vocabulary.
Okay.
So they're really emphasizing that it's not enough to just read the definitions.
Right. You got to use them.
You got to use them. So why is that active practice so crucial?
Well, because just passively reading a definition doesn't really make a word become part of your working vocabulary.
It got to become part of you.
Yeah, it's got to be integrated.
So they have these suggestions.
Okay.
Like writing sentences in a journal, speaking the words out loud.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Get your mouth around the word.
Yeah. Using quiz apps.
That's a fun way to do it.
And most importantly, incorporating the words into your real conversations.
Yes, that's the ultimate test.
Right, because that's when you really see if you've actually learned the word.
Exactly. If you can use it naturally.
Yeah.
In the flow of conversation.
Then you know you've got it.
You've mastered it.
And then the final thing they have is this section on morning vocabulary affirmations.
Oh, yes.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a really cool idea because it's all about cultivating a positive mindset around language learning.
Yeah.
So they have affirmations like, I express myself clearly and confidently, and each word I learn opens a new door.
I like that.
And I think those kinds of statements can really boost your belief in your ability to communicate effectively.
Yeah. It's almost like you're giving yourself a pep talk.
It is.
Before you even start.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the words themselves. It's about your attitude towards learning.
Exactly. It's about building confidence alongside competence.
So to kind of sum up this morning vocabulary booster, it seems like what they're really saying is that making this conscious effort to engage with vocabulary, even just for a few minutes each morning, can have this significant cumulative effect.
Yeah, over time, it really adds up.
On your communication skills and your confidence.
And they drive home the point that words are tools.
Right.
They're tools for thinking more clearly, expressing yourself more effectively, and connecting with others on a deeper level.
So it's not just about memorizing definitions.
No, it's about using language to live a richer life.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, for you listening right now, what if you were to take just one new word from this resource and try to use it in your conversations or your writing today? How might that shift your perspective?
That's a great question.
Or the way you connect with someone?
Yeah.
What new possibilities might even a single thoughtfully chosen word unlock for you?
Something to think about.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for diving into this with me.
My pleasure.
There was a lot of words, but
they were good words.
They were good words.
Yeah.
All right, till next time.
See you later.
Okay, so you guys have been sending in some really cool stuff for us to dig into. And this time it looks like we're going to be taking a deep dive into crushyourgoals.pdf.
Yes, this one's all about making those mornings work a little harder for you and really helping you hit those big goals that you're going after.
So our goal today is to pull out the really valuable stuff, the key takeaways, and figure out some practical things you can actually start doing so you can make a morning routine that really works for you.
Right on. So it's kind of interesting. What we're going to be looking at today is how all this connects with the way our brains work and our habits, and, how to actually make changes so you can achieve what's important to you.
Yeah. Cool. So why are these morning hours so important?
Well, this PDF is all about looking at the science of why the morning time has so much potential and how to really structure your morning, not just as like a bunch of tasks, but like a jump start for your whole day.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
Chapter 1 goes into the psychology of the morning, and it talks about waking up in your prefrontal cortex.
Right.
That's the part of your brain that makes decisions and helps you focus.
Right. That's it.
It says that it's really active in the morning.
Yeah, it's like this: after you get a good night's rest, your brain's had some time to, clear out some of that mental clutter.
Makes sense.
And research shows that when your brain's refreshed, like that, you can think more clearly, you can concentrate better, and you're more ready for those higher level thinking skills, like planning strategically and setting goals that work.
So you're like at 100% brain power.
Exactly. You got a full tank of mental energy ready to go.
I like that, a full tank of mental energy.
Yeah.
So then it goes on to this idea of the willpower window and how willpower isn't something you just have all the time.
Right.
It gets used up as you go through your day.
Yeah, like a muscle.
So the morning is like this special time when you have the most control.
It really is. And, they've done studies on this thing called ego depletion. And it turns out that when you're trying hard not to give in to something, or you're making a lot of choices, it can actually make you less able to control yourself for a bit.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So in the morning, before you have to deal with all the crazy stuff of the day, you've got all that willpower ready to go.
So that's the best time to tackle those things that take a lot of discipline.
Exactly. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to say no to, like a donut or something in the morning compared to like 3 in the afternoon?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's probably that willpower window doing its thing.
That makes a lot of sense. And then it gets even more interesting with this thing they call emotional priming.
Oh, yeah.
Like the idea that how you start your day can really affect your mood for the rest of the day.
Big term.
Like if you start off looking at bad news or jump right into some task that stresses you out, it can kind of set you up for a stressful day.
Absolutely. It's like, think about when you're tuning an instrument. If you start with a note that sounds bad, the whole piece is probably going to sound off right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the same with your emotions. If you start with something negative, it throws everything off. But if you start with something positive, like maybe you're grateful for something, or you say some affirmations, or you visualize your goals, it can actually release these chemicals in your brain, like dopamine, that make you feel more optimistic and confident, and that can stick with you all day.
So it's about choosing how you want to feel.
Exactly. You're setting the tone for your emotions from the very beginning.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. How about you? What do you usually do in the morning? Does it affect your mood?
I've been trying to be more mindful about it. I used to just dive straight into email, which sometimes wasn't the best way to start the day, but now I try to, do something a little more positive.
Makes sense. So moving on to goal setting.
Yeah.
Chapter 2 is all about how to set SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Love the SMART framework.
Yeah, they have this example where they take the goal, I want to get fit.
Okay.
And they make it SMART, like, I will run 30 minutes every morning at 6 a.m. for the next 3 months to lose 10 pounds.
There you go.
Huge difference.
What makes the SMART framework so powerful is that it takes something fuzzy, like just a wish, and turns it into a real plan.
Makes it concrete.
Exactly. The more specific you are, the clearer the goal becomes in your mind, and that makes it way easier to focus your energy on it.
I can see that.
And when you can measure your goal, you can track your progress, and that helps you stay motivated.
Right. You can actually see yourself moving towards the goal.
Right. And then achievable means that, you can actually do it. You're not setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, that's important.
Then there's relevant, which means your goal connects to what's important to you, your values.
So it's not just some random goal. It actually means something to you.
Exactly. And finally, time-bound means you've got a deadline.
Keeps you on track.
It creates a sense of urgency and keeps you accountable. Have you found in your own life that when you set goals that are more specific, and, all those things we just talked about, that they're easier to achieve.
Oh, definitely. The vague ones just sort of float around, never really get done.
Right.
And when you have those really big, scary goals,
Yeah.
the advice is to break them down into smaller goals,
Right.
micro goals.
Love that strategy.
So instead of freaking out about publish a book, you focus on something like write 500 words before 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Feels a lot more manageable.
It's all about creating momentum. When you take those smaller actions every day, they add up to that bigger goal without feeling like this impossible mountain you have to climb all at once.
Makes a ton of sense.
Think about a time when you had to tackle a really big project. Did breaking it down into smaller steps make it feel more doable?
Yeah, totally. It's like taking the stairs instead of trying to jump to the top floor in one go.
Exactly.
And then there's this 1% rule, which I find really motivating.
Tell me about it.
It's the idea that if you make small improvements every day, even just 1%, they can add up to big changes over time.
It's amazing what happens when you consistently do a little bit every day.
Like they say, you can apply it to your morning routine by reading a few pages of a book or doing a short meditation each day.
Yeah, the power of that 1% rule is in the compounding effect. Like when you invest money and it earns interest, and then that interest earns interest.
Right, it grows exponentially.
Exactly. Even though a 1% improvement might seem small on its own over time, those little wins add up to huge results in the context of your morning routine. Could you think of one or two small things that you could do consistently that would really help you make progress towards your goals?
I'd have to think about that. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's worth pondering.
So we've talked about the why. Now, how do we actually make this happen?
Good question.
Chapter 3 is all about building the perfect morning routine. And it starts by saying that a productive morning actually begins the night before.
Oh, I love this part. Planning and prioritizing good sleep.
Yeah, it's all about getting things ready and setting yourself up for a good night's sleep.
Makes sense. A good evening routine sets you up for a smooth morning.
For sure.
If you spend a little time the night before planning out your day, laying out your clothes, or getting your workspace organized, it can save you so much time and stress in the morning.
You're starting the day with less friction.
Exactly. And then when it comes to sleep, making sure you're getting those 7 to 9 hours, avoiding screens for like an hour before bed, and not drinking too much caffeine in the afternoon are like non-negotiables if you want to wake up feeling rested and full of energy.
No caffeine after 2 p.m.
Ideally, yeah, you want to give your body enough time to wind down before bed.
Okay, so how do you usually prepare for your mornings the night before?
Well, I'm pretty good about most of it, but I'll admit I still struggle with the no screens before bed thing.
I hear you. That one's tough.
But I'm working on it.
Me too. Now, the PDF also talks about this 5 a.m. club, which has become pretty popular.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's all about waking up super early, so you have a bunch of time to focus before the day gets going. But the material makes a good point that it's not for everyone.
Right. It's not about the exact time you wake up, but about being intentional about creating time for yourself before the day takes over.
So like, even if 5 a.m. isn't realistic for you, maybe it's 6 or 7.
Exactly. You got to find what works for you and your natural rhythm and then stick with it. When do you usually feel the most clear-headed?
I think it's probably in those first couple hours after I wake up, no matter what time it is.
Makes sense.
And if you do decide to wake up earlier, they mention this 20-20-20 formula by Robin Sharma.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
It's for that first hour, you're awake, 20 minutes of movement, 20 minutes of reflection, and 20 minutes of learning.
It's a great way to start the day. You're hitting all the important areas, physical, mental, and intellectual.
You're setting yourself up for a balanced day.
Exactly.
They even give you a sample 90-minute morning routine. It's really practical. It starts with hydration, then some stretching and workout, a shower, then meditation or affirmations, journaling, reading or listening to a podcast, reviewing your goals, and finally getting into some focused work.
Wow, that's pretty comprehensive.
It's like a template you can adjust to fit your life.
I love how intentional and varied it is. It's not just rushing through a to-do list. It's about doing things that feed your mind and body in a specific order before you jump into the heavy stuff. When you look at that routine, what parts stand out to you?
I like that it combines getting your body moving with preparing your mind before you start working.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So now the big question is, how do you stay consistent with any routine?
Right, that's the challenge.
Chapter 4 is all about mindset hacks to help you do just that.
I'm always up for some good mindset hacks.
The first one is understanding your why.
Yes, your why.
Like the real deep down reason why you want to wake up early and stick to this routine.
Your why is your fuel. It's what keeps you going even when you don't feel like it.
They say when you connect your morning routine to something bigger, something that truly matters to you, it stops being a chore and starts being a step towards something you really want.
It's about finding that emotional connection that will give you the strength to keep going even when it's tough. What's the big why behind your goals that could help you create a consistent morning routine?
That's a tough one. I'll have to give that some thought.
Yeah, take some time to really reflect on that.
They also talk about this idea called habit stacking, which I think is really clever.
Oh yeah, habit stacking is gold.
It's from the book Atomic Habits, and it's about connecting a new habit to one you already have.
Exactly.
Like after I brush my teeth, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
Perfect example.
It makes it so much easier to remember and actually do the new habit.
What's happening in your brain is that you're using existing neural pathways, so it's way easier for the new habit to stick. It's like adding a new car to a train that's already running on a track.
It's already in motion.
Exactly. By attaching the new behavior to something you already do automatically, you don't have to think so hard about remembering it. What existing habits could you connect a new morning activity to?
That's a great way to think about it. I'm going to have to try that.
I highly recommend it.
The material also gives some practical tips to overcome that morning resistance. Like putting your alarm clock across the room or setting out your workout clothes the night before.
Love those little things.
They're so simple, but they can really make a difference.
It's all about making it as easy as possible to stick to your routine, even when you're not feeling super motivated.
Yeah, remove the obstacles.
Exactly. You're creating an environment that supports your success.
Okay, this next one I find really interesting. It's about visualizing your success.
Oh, visualization is powerful stuff.
They say to spend just a minute or 2 each morning imagining your ideal day unfolding. You're getting things done, you're achieving your goals.
Love it.
Apparently, it can actually prepare your brain for success and reduce those doubts we all have.
It's like giving your brain a sneak peek of the win.
I like that.
Have you ever tried visualization techniques?
I've messed around with them a little, but maybe not consistently enough.
It's definitely worth exploring.
So Chapter 5 moves on to specific productivity tools and techniques.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
The MIT rule stands out. It's about identifying and tackling your most important task first thing in the morning.
Oh, the MIT rule. That's a game changer.
Yeah, make sure you're focusing on what really matters.
Right, instead of getting bogged down in less important things, you're starting your day with the task that will have the biggest impact on your goals.
So you're being proactive and putting your energy where it counts.
What would you say is your typical MIT each day?
It kind of varies, which maybe means I need to be more intentional about figuring that out.
Yeah, it's worth taking some time to identify your MIT each day so you can prioritize it.
The PDF also talks about this thing called time blocking, which is basically scheduling out your entire day in hour-long blocks.
Time blocking, yeah, it might seem rigid, but it can actually be really freeing.
How so?
Well, when you intentionally plan out your day and assign specific blocks of time to different activities, you become more aware of how you're spending your time.
So you're not just letting the day happen to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're in control.
Makes sense.
And when you time block, you can make sure you're giving enough attention to the things that are most important to you, whether that's focused work breaks or even meals.
All about taking charge of your schedule.
Exactly.
Okay, and then there's the Pomodoro technique, which I've heard of but never actually tried.
Oh, the Pomodoro technique is great, especially when you need to really focus.
Yeah, it's those 25-minute bursts of work followed by short breaks, right?
Yep. It's a really effective way to stay focused and prevent burnout.
So you're basically working with your brain's natural rhythms.
Exactly. Those short breaks give your mind a chance to rest and recharge so you can come back to your work with renewed energy.
I can see how that would be helpful.
It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Of course, they also recommend all kinds of digital tools.
Oh yeah, there are so many great apps out there now.
For organization, task management, time tracking, and even guided meditation.
It's amazing how technology can help us build better habits.
It's like having a whole team of assistants in your pocket.
Exactly.
So we've covered what to do in the morning, but just as important is what to avoid.
Right.
Chapter 6 has some warnings, and the biggest one is to resist checking your phone first thing.
Oh, that's a huge one.
No social media, no news apps, no emails, at least not before you've had a chance to center yourself.
It's all about protecting your mental space when you first wake up.
Instead of starting your day by reacting to other people's agendas, you can focus on what's important to you.
Exactly. You set the tone for the day.
They also emphasize the importance of eating a healthy breakfast and staying hydrated.
Yes. Fuel your body and your mind.
Seems obvious, but it's easy to skip when you're rushing.
I know I've been guilty of that myself, but you're absolutely right. Breakfast is brain food.
They talk about how your brain needs fuel, especially after fasting all night.
And a good breakfast gives you the energy and nutrients you need to focus and think clearly throughout the morning. And don't forget about water.
Right. Staying hydrated is essential for everything.
How often do you make time for breakfast and hydration in your morning routine?
I try to most days, but I could definitely be more consistent.
Yeah, it's something we all have to work on.
And finally, they bring up this concept of decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. It's a real thing.
They recommend creating a kind of morning script, a set sequence of actions you follow without having to think too hard about it.
Yeah, that's a great way to conserve mental energy for more important decisions later on.
So you're not wasting your brain power on small stuff in the morning.
Exactly.
It's like putting your morning on autopilot.
I love that analogy.
Chapter 7 is always fun. It's all about peeking into the morning routines of successful people.
Oh, yeah. I love seeing how other people structure their mornings.
It's so inspiring. They talk about Elon Musk, who prioritizes deep work. Oprah Winfrey, who does meditation, journaling, exercise, affirmations, and reading.
Wow, that's a packed morning.
And Tim Cook, who gets up at like 3:45 in the morning to read emails, work out, and head to Apple headquarters.
That's dedication.
What I find interesting is that while their specific activities are different, they all have one thing in common.
What's that?
They're all super intentional about their mornings.
Yeah, they've designed their mornings to support their goals and set themselves up for success.
It really shows you that there's no one right way to do it.
You gotta find what works for you.
They also mention Hal Elrod's SAVERS method from the Miracle Morning.
Oh yes, SAVERS, another great framework.
It stands for silence affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing.
It's a really holistic approach to personal growth in the morning.
Yeah, you're covering all your bases. Mindfulness, positive self-talk, mental preparation, physical well-being, learning, and self-expression through writing.
It's like a power-up for your day.
And then chapter 8 gets really specific. It gives you tailored morning suggestions based on your goals.
Well, that's really helpful.
So whether you're focused on health, career learning, or creativity, they've got you covered.
That's great because it emphasizes that your morning routine should be personalized.
It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right. It should be a strategy that's specifically designed to help you achieve your unique goals and aspirations.
For example, for health goals, they suggest things like lemon water, a high-intensity workout, and a healthy breakfast.
Yeah.
For career goals, they say to prioritize an hour of deep work before you even look at your email.
Love that.
It's all about aligning your morning activities with what you want to achieve.
Exactly. You're using that focused morning energy to move the needle toward your goals.
So how do you know if your morning routine is actually working?
Good question.
That's where chapter 9 comes in. It's all about measuring your success.
Data is king.
They recommend tracking things like your wake-up time, how many hours you slept, your mood on a scale of 1 to 10, whether you completed your key habits, and how much progress you made on your goals.
Tracking is so valuable because it gives you that feedback. You need to see what's working, what's not, and what might need to be adjusted.
It helps you stay consistent and motivated.
Exactly.
They also suggest taking some time each week to reflect on your morning routine.
Yes. Love a good weekly reflection.
Like looking back at what went well, what didn't, and what might have gotten in the way.
It's a chance to learn from your experiences, to make any necessary tweaks, and make sure your routine is still serving you.
It's all about continuous improvement.
So it sounds like the key takeaway from Crush Your Goals is that you don't have to make drastic changes all at once.
Yeah, it's about those small, consistent choices you make in the morning that add up over time.
Exactly. It's the compound effect of those little wins. Those pages, you read the goals, you review the actions you take that ultimately lead to big results.
You're building momentum day by day.
And setting the tone for your entire day.
So for all of you listening, think about this. What's one small change you can make to your morning routine tomorrow
Yeah, just one thing.
that you think will have the biggest positive impact on your most important goal?
Try it out, see how it feels.
Experiment. Find what works for you and start designing those mornings to help you win the day.
You got this.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time. Hello and welcome to the Learn English Lab. I'm Mike, and today we've got Sarah with us for something really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating deep dive.
Exactly. We're going to be looking at the concept of a 2-hour-long morning English listening practice.
And it's not just about the language itself, right?
Yeah, it's more than that. We're talking about incorporating wisdom-focused listening into that routine.
So you can start your day with valuable insights and really kind of set the tone for a positive mindset.
It's almost like a mental workout and a language lesson all rolled into one.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's something that can benefit anyone no matter where they're located. I mean, this isn't limited to just the USA or the UK.
Right. We're talking about something universally applicable, whether you're in Canada, Australia, Germany, Japan, you name it.
It's about tapping into those fundamental truths, those pieces of wisdom that resonate across cultures.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. When we talk about wisdom-focused listening, what exactly do we mean?
Well, think about it this way. Imagine starting your day by listening to simple explanations of profound quotes.
So it's not about diving into complex philosophical text right off the bat?
Not at all. It's about making those big ideas accessible, especially for English learners.
So you're hearing these impactful concepts, but they're broken down into language that's easier to grasp.
Exactly. Which ultimately helps you understand and apply them more effectively in your own life.
Makes sense.
Correct.
Now, to really illustrate this, let's look at some specific examples, maybe even group them by themes that often pop up.
Sounds good. Let's start with the theme of self-belief, which is so crucial for any learning journey.
Okay, so within self-belief, we could consider the quote, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken."
Such a simple yet powerful message, right? It encourages you to embrace your individuality and not try to be someone you're not.
And when you hear that consistently in English, it reinforces that idea of having confidence in who you are.
And that confidence spills over into your language learning too. It helps you find your own voice and express yourself authentically.
It's like you're being told, hey, your unique perspective matters, so don't be afraid to share it.
Exactly. And another quote that speaks to self-belief is, believe you can, and you're halfway there.
That one's all about the power of positive thinking and having that belief in your own ability to succeed.
It's a reminder that your mindset plays a huge role in achieving your goals, and that includes becoming fluent in English.
Yeah, if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be that much harder to stay motivated and push through the challenges.
Absolutely. So by listening to these ideas, you're essentially programming your mind for success.
Okay, so we've got self-belief covered. What about perseverance?
Well, perseverance is all about resilience and the ability to keep going even when things get tough.
And there's that classic quote that really captures this. Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts.
Right. It's acknowledging that setbacks are a part of life, and what truly matters is how you respond to them.
So when you're learning English and you hit those inevitable roadblocks, this message can be incredibly empowering.
It reminds you that it's okay to make mistakes, and that the key is to keep learning and keep moving forward.
And another quote that speaks to perseverance is, "It always seems impossible until it's done."
Yes. That one highlights how our perception of difficulty can change once we've actually accomplished something.
It's like that feeling of, wow, I can't believe I actually did that.
Exactly. And when you apply that to learning English, it can help you overcome those feelings of being overwhelmed or intimidated.
It reminds you that even fluency, something that might seem impossible right now, is achievable with consistent effort.
Okay, moving on to another important theme, the importance of taking action.
Right, because it's not enough to just think about learning English, you have to actually do it.
Exactly. And a quote that perfectly illustrates this is, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step."
It's a reminder that even the most ambitious goals are achieved through small, consistent actions.
And that applies perfectly to language learning. It's about taking those daily steps, even if they seem small at the time.
Yeah, whether it's listening to a podcast for 15 minutes or practicing your speaking with a language partner, every little bit adds up.
And another quote that emphasizes the need for action is, "You miss 100% of the shots you don't take."
I love that one. It's so direct and to the point. You have to be willing to put yourself out there to make mistakes and to learn from them.
And in the context of language learning, that means actively engaging with the language speaking, writing, listening.
Right. It's about being an active participant in your own learning journey.
So we've talked about self-belief, perseverance, and taking action. What about inner happiness?
That's an interesting one. How does that tie into language learning?
Well, think about the, quote, "happiness depends upon ourselves."
It's saying that true happiness comes from within, from our own mindset and attitude.
Exactly. And when you start your day by listening to this kind of message, it can set a positive tone for the entire day.
It's like a reminder to focus on the things you can control and to cultivate a sense of gratitude and contentment.
And that positive mindset can make a big difference in your language learning journey as well.
Yeah, when you're feeling happy and motivated, you're more likely to stick with it, even when it gets challenging.
And speaking of challenges, let's talk about personal growth and how it relates to achieving goals.
Okay, so there's that quote that says, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals.
It's a powerful reminder that the journey is just as important as the destination.
So in the context of language learning, it's not just about becoming fluent. It's about the person you become along the way.
It's about developing discipline, resilience, and a growth mindset, all of which are valuable skills that extend far beyond language learning.
Yeah, you're essentially building character and expanding your horizons.
Exactly. And last but not least, let's touch on the impact of small, consistent efforts.
This is a big one, especially when we're talking about a 2-hour listening practice, which might seem daunting to some people.
Absolutely. But there's a quote that really puts things into perspective. Small deeds done are better than great deeds planned.
So it's not about trying to do everything at once. It's about making those small but consistent efforts over time.
And when it comes to language learning, those small efforts can really add up, whether it's listening to a podcast, reading an article, or practicing your speaking for a few minutes each day.
Yeah, it's about making it a habit and integrating it into your daily routine.
So even if you can't dedicate a full 2 hours right away, start with what you can manage and gradually increase it over time.
And it's important to emphasize that this isn't about intense study or cramming. It's about enjoying the process and finding ways to make it part of your life.
So now that we've explored all of these different themes and ideas, the question is, how can our listeners actually put this into practice?
Right. How can they incorporate this wisdom-focused listening into their morning routine?
First of all, it doesn't have to be 2 consecutive hours of listening. You can break it up throughout the morning.
So maybe listen while you're getting ready, having breakfast, commuting to work.
Exactly. Find those pockets of time where you can fit it in. And the beauty of it is that you can choose content that aligns with your interests.
So if you're interested in personal development, you can listen to podcasts or audiobooks on that topic.
And if you're more interested in current events, you can listen to news broadcasts or documentaries.
The key is to find something that you enjoy and that will keep you engaged.
And remember, even dedicating 15 or 20 minutes each morning can make a big difference over time.
It's about consistency rather than intensity.
And as you continue to listen, you'll find that you're not just improving your English skills.
You're also expanding your knowledge, gaining new perspectives, and cultivating a more positive and mindful mindset.
So I'd like to leave our listeners with a question. Which of these themes resonated most with you today?
Was it self-belief, perseverance, taking action, inner happiness, personal growth, or the impact of small deeds?
And how can you incorporate those ideas into your own life and your own language learning journey?
So to wrap up, integrating wisdom-focused English listening into your morning routine can be a powerful tool.
It's a way to nurture both your mind and your language skills.
And it's a reminder that learning can be an enjoyable and enriching experience.
So we encourage you to give it a try and see the benefits for yourself.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more insightful content.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time. All right, so welcome to another deep dive. You know, we like to go deep on stuff, and today we're going deep on something that you actually sent in.
That's right, a listener submission this time.
Exactly, and it's called 10 Life Lessons in English .pdf.
Catchy title.
It really is. And these are, you know, the listener who sent this in said, these are really helpful for kind of morning reflections.
Yeah, it's like little stories and then a little advice for how to think about your morning, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. For our listener, the learner, you know, who's all about getting that information quickly.
Right, to the point.
Yeah. No BS, just the wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. And these stories are kind of cool because they're like little nuggets of wisdom, right? They're not these big, long, complicated things.
Right.
They're very digestible.
Yeah. So we're going to try to just pull out, like, what is the essence of each story and how can we apply it, you know?
Absolutely make it actionable.
Yeah. So the first story here is called The Candle in the Storm. And it's about this guy, Elias, who lives in this mountain village. And every night,
Every single night.
he lights a candle in his window.
There's a little Campbell.
Yeah. And, you know, most of the villagers are like, why are you doing that? It seems pointless.
Like, Campbell's not going to do much.
Right. But then one night there's this huge storm and this woman, Liana, is lost in the mountains.
Oh, no.
And she sees this little flickering candle in the distance.
Yeah.
And it guides her to safety. So the obvious takeaway is that, you know, even a small light can guide the way. But I think there's something more to it than that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting to think about it in terms of like consistency.
Okay.
Right? Like
Yeah.
Elias wasn't trying to like, you know, save someone every night. He was just doing this thing consistently. And that consistency ended up, you know, being really powerful.
Right. Yeah. It's like You never know what impact you're having, even with small actions, if you do them consistently.
Yeah, exactly. And the morning reflection advice for this one is like, start your morning by asking, how can I be a light today?
Ooh, I like that.
Right. And it's like, even if it's something small, how can you just, make someone's day a little bit brighter?
Yeah, it's like shifting your focus from like, what am I going to get today to like, how can I give?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, story number 2 is called The Bamboo and the Oak.
Classic.
Yeah, so this one is about, you have this big, strong oak tree, and then you have this like kind of flimsy bamboo.
Right.
And then a big storm comes, and the oak tree is like, I'm not going to move. I'm strong. I'm solid. And it snaps in half.
Oh, no.
And the bamboo, it just bends with the wind, and it survives.
Bends but doesn't break.
Exactly. So the lesson here is flexibility is strength in disguise.
Right. And it's like in life, you're going to face challenges.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is just be flexible and adapt.
Yeah, it's like that saying, the only constant is change.
Exactly. And if you can't roll with the punches, you're going to get knocked down.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely been guilty of being like the oak tree sometimes, just like digging my heels in and refusing to change.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's a hard lesson to learn.
It is. So the morning advice for this one is like, before your day begins, tell yourself, I will bend, not break.
Yeah.
I will adjust, not resist.
Yeah, it's like a little mantra you can use to remind yourself to stay flexible.
Exactly. All right, story number 3, The Tortoise and the Doubts.
Ooh, I like this one.
Yeah, so there's this tortoise who decides he wants to climb this big hill.
Ambitious.
Right, and all the other animals are like, tortoise, you can't do that. You're too slow. You're too low to the ground. Like, give up.
They're just laughing at him.
Yeah, but the tortoise just ignores them and he keeps going.
Slowly but surely.
Exactly, and eventually he reaches the top of the hill.
Good for him.
Right, so the lesson is like believing in yourself is more important than what other people think.
Right, because you're always going to have doubters,
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're trying to do something big and scary.
Yeah, and I think it's so easy to let those doubts creep in and like talk you out of your dreams.
Oh, absolutely.
But this tortoise is like, nope, I'm doing this.
That's the spirit.
So the morning advice is each morning, silence the doubts. Say, I am capable. I trust my path.
Love it. Yeah, it's like, take a minute to just like shut out all the noise and remember what you're capable of.
Exactly. All right, story number 4 is a good one. It's called The Empty Jar.
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
So it's about this professor who's teaching a class, and he has this big empty jar.
Okay.
And then he has a bunch of rocks and pebbles and sand.
Right.
And he's like, okay, I want to fit all of this into this jar.
This is a classic.
It is. And he starts by putting in the sand and then the pebbles. And then he tries to put in the rocks, but they don't fit.
Oh, no, he did it in the wrong order.
Exactly. And then he's like, okay, let's try it again this time.
Yeah.
He puts the rocks in first, then the pebbles, then the sand, and it all fits.
He found a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lesson is like, the jar is your life, right?
Okay, I'm following.
The rocks are the most important things, like your family, your health, your purpose.
The big stuff.
Yeah, the pebbles are like other important things, but not quite as crucial, like your hobbies, your social life.
Okay, got it.
And then the sand is like all the little stuff, the emails, the to-do lists, all the things that can just fill up your time.
Great, the busy work.
Exactly. And if you don't prioritize the rocks first, you're never going to have time for them.
Because the sand will just expand to fill all the space.
Exactly. So the morning advice is like plan your day by starting with your rocks. Ask yourself, what truly matters today?
That's a good one.
Yeah, focus on that first.
I like that a lot because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and forget about the big picture.
Right. Totally. All right. Story number 5, The Traveler and the Mirror Lake.
Ooh, poetic.
It is. So there's this lake that's perfectly still like a mirror.
Okay.
And this angry traveler comes along and he looks in the lake and he sees an angry reflection.
He sees himself.
Yeah. And then a peaceful monk comes along and he looks in the lake and he sees a peaceful reflection.
That's deep.
Yeah. So the lesson is like the world reflects what you bring to it.
Right. It's like your perception of the world is influenced by your own internal state.
Yeah. If you're looking for the bad, you're going to find it.
Yeah, and if you're looking for the good, you'll find that too.
Exactly. So the morning advice is like, before you leave your house, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what energy am I bringing to the world today?
Be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly. All right. Story number 6. This one's called The Boy Who Planted Dreams.
I like it already.
Yeah. So there's this boy named Ravi, and he gets this special seed, and he plants it.
Okay.
And he waters it every day, and he takes care of it, but nothing happens for years.
Years.
Yeah. And everyone's like, Ravi, you're wasting your time. That seed is never going to give up.
They're losing faith.
Yeah, but Ravi, he just keeps going.
He's determined.
He is. And then one day, finally, a tiny sprout appears.
Wow, after all that time.
Yeah, and eventually it grows into this magnificent tree.
The power of patience.
Right, so the lesson is like, growth takes time.
Yeah.
You have to be patient and consistent.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important lesson, especially in today's world where everything is so instant, you know?
Right, we want results now.
Exactly. But the most meaningful things in life often take time to develop.
Yeah, like Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly. So the morning advice for this one is be consistent with your actions. Even if the results seem far away, ask yourself, what am I planting today?
Yeah, keep nurturing those dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Because you never know when they're going to sprout.
Okay, story number 7, the fire within.
Ooh, that sounds intense.
It is. So there's this warrior who goes to his master and he's like, Master, how do I stay motivated? How do I keep going when things get tough?
It's a good question.
It is. And the master says it's like a fire. You need fuel to keep it burning and you need to protect the spark from the wind.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Yeah. So the lesson is like motivation has to come from within. You can't rely on other people to keep you going.
Right. You have to have that internal drive.
Exactly. And the morning advice is ask yourself, what will I feed my fire with today?
Fuel the fire.
Yeah, and a good morning routine can help with that, like exercise or journaling or meditation.
Absolutely. It's about setting yourself up for success.
Right. All right. Story number 8, the compass and the map.
Okay. I'm curious about this one.
So there's this sailor who has this really detailed map, but he keeps getting lost.
Why is he getting lost if he has a map?
Because he doesn't have a compass.
Ah, so he knows where he wants to go, but he doesn't know which direction to go.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the map is like your plans, your goals, your knowledge, but the compass is your values.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's like your values guide your direction. They help you make decisions.
Because if you don't know what's important to you, you can end up going in circles.
Right, totally. So the morning advice is before you plan your day, reflect on what values will guide your choices today.
Let your values be your compass.
Exactly. All right, we're getting close to the end. Story number 9, the masks we wear.
Ooh, that sounds deep.
It is. So there's this woman named Maya, and she's like the picture of perfection,
She's got it all together.
Yeah, but on the inside, she's really unhappy. Because she's not being her true self, she's putting on this mask for everyone.
That's got to be exhausting.
It is. And then one day she decides to just take the mask off and be herself.
What happens?
And it's scary at first, but then she starts to feel so much lighter and freer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she connects with people on a much deeper level.
Because she's being genuine.
Exactly. So the lesson is like, be authentic. It frees you and it inspires others.
Right. It's like when you're being yourself, you give other people permission to do the same.
Totally. So the morning advice is look in the mirror and say, today I choose honesty. I am enough as I am.
Powerful.
Yeah. Authenticity is your superpower.
Love it. All right, last one, story number 10.
The eagle who thought he was a chicken.
Okay, that's an interesting title.
It is. So there's this eagle who was raised with a bunch of chickens.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he never learned to fly because he thought he was a chicken.
He didn't know any better.
Right. And then one day this traveler comes along and he sees the eagle and he's like, you're not a chicken, you're an eagle. You're meant to soar.
Does the eagle believe him?
At first he's like, no way, I can't fly. I'm just a chicken.
He's internalized that belief.
Yeah. But the traveler keeps encouraging him. And finally the eagle takes a leap of faith and he soars into the sky.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It is. So the lesson is like, you are more powerful than you believe.
Right. We often limit ourselves because of our beliefs or our past experiences.
Yeah. It's like those limitations aren't real. They're just in our minds.
Exactly. So the morning advice for this one is tell yourself, I am capable of more than I believe. And then take one brave step towards your dreams.
Push past those limitations.
Exactly. Because you never know what you're capable of until you try.
So there you have it. 10 stories. 10 life lessons.
10 nuggets of wisdom.
And I think what's really cool about these stories is that they're not just like abstract concepts, you know?
They're relatable.
Yeah. And the morning reflection advice gives you like a concrete way to apply these lessons to your life.
Absolutely. It's like a little action step you can take each day.
Yeah. So as you go about your day today, think about which story resonated with you the most.
Which one spoke to you?
Yeah. And maybe there's something in that story that you can like focus on today.
Yeah. Like what's one little thing you can do today to embody that lesson?
Exactly. And, just remember that you're capable of more than you think.
You have the power to create the life you want.
So go out there and soar.
Fly high.
Exactly. All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Bye.